I hope I've spelled your name correctly. Okay, so now, today the topic is about related to entrepreneurship, innovating beyond products. So 10 types of innovation to weather through the pandemic. So just a bit of background. When Tuan Hisham contacted myself to give some sharing to the ZUSUFF community and others at large. So we were trying to think of something that might be beneficial. And one of the reasons why I've chosen innovating beyond products. I remember my time when I was in the Islamic finance industry, attending various muzakara, attending various Islamic finance forum, be it in Malaysia or be it in overseas. I realized that the talk has always been centered around products. And for your information, based on research done by various parties, among others is the tool that I'm going to present to you later on. It's called, it's a book called 10 Types of Innovation. They have done a study over a period of time, and they realized that innovation on product gives you the lowest return on investment, gives you the least amount of ROI. And after attending years and years of Islamic finance forum, be it in Malaysia, be it organized by the Central Bank or the Securities Commission or even here, then I realized that, hey, then when I reflected my journey in Islamic finance before I go into entrepreneurship, I realized that, hey, I think there's something that we need to go beyond if we were to bring Islamic finance further. We have always been centered around the product. And the product is just one part of the jigsaw puzzle. There's something bigger out there, which is the ecosystem, how we deliver our values through our products and services. There are a lot more things that for you to consider. So therefore, I suggested, so why not we go into 10 types of innovation, how we can innovate further? Because with the pandemic that has happened, a lot of business, they realize that they have problem with their supply chain. For example, take for the example, the product of face masks. In the early days, not just Malaysia, even other countries are facing trouble to have sufficient number of face masks. Not just individual, even hospital. My wife who works in the hospital was telling me that in the early days, they had to ration their face masks. One face mask, you have to keep it, ensure that hopefully you can use it for a couple of days because we don't have enough supply in the early days. So a lot of business has also been impacted because China is closed down, our borders are closed down, so they are unable to get their raw materials. So that indirectly causes problem for their business. So business are unable to continue. Even though if you have demand, but you don't have the supply, so it takes the other side of the equation for you to be sustainable. And now moving forward, like it or not, with the new norm, people have to innovate. Take for example, in the case of our training or even education sector, you can't hold physical classes. So imagine for those who are doing businesses, depending on training, physical training. So how are they going to survive? So like it or not, we have people will have to innovate. And they have to make use of several methods. And according to study, you have to combine a few innovation method or a few innovation types for you to have a sustainable and successful business. And when I talk about business, it's not just people who are doing buying and selling of the items that you purchase in your house. It also includes organizations like ZUSUFF. ZUSUFF will also have to innovate. Even other universities. I think luckily for ZUSUFF, I remember when I joined in 2009, the thinking was already going digital at the very beginning. That's why we had our LMS early on and so on. But what about other institutions that don't have the infrastructure? That's one. don't have the talent that is competent or comfortable enough to do online training. Especially you can imagine a lot of our top-notch professors, for example, not INSEAD per se, some of them are comfortable with technology, but there are also those who have to adapt to the new norm and innovate themselves so that they continue to deliver good values to their stakeholders, particularly the students. So like it or not, innovation is a must. And then why we are trying to talk about innovation? So hopefully the community at large, Islamic finance, for example, will look innovation beyond products. Because what makes a bank is not just the product. You have the customer, you have the physical banking outlet. You have a lot more things for you to consider when you want to do innovation, especially if you want to innovate Islamic finance to be accepted by the larger community. Or else we will remain a close-knit society and Islamic finance will forever remain with those who studied Islamic finance. A bit of background. So I'm an alumni of INSEAD. I completed my CIFP program, now known as MIF program, back in 2010. I think I was lucky, thank God. Thank you to all the professors, the teachers, the educators, and also all the friendly staff that helped me going through, whether through my journey in INSEAD. I realized that should we be able to understand that there are more things that you can innovate, so eventually whatever research, whatever good things that you want to do for the community at large will be more exciting and you have a more holistic view of looking at things. And as I mentioned, I've been dealing with entrepreneurship for the past 8 years, working with various parties. I'm also a business counselor with our National Institute of Entrepreneurship, INSCAN, a mentor together with MAGIC, Malaysian Global Innovation and Creativity Center, and a business coach with SME Bank. So this is also among the things that I realized that even for our fellow entrepreneurs, when it comes to innovation, they also have the same mindset, which is, oh, innovate, we must innovate product. And as I mentioned, innovation in product has the lowest ROI. The reason being, when you produce a product, you innovate a particular product, people can see your product. When people can see your product, people can copy your product. So that's why it has the lowest form of ROI, because people can easily copy it. But in order for you to maximize your return, you can add few other elements. And studies have shown that companies that typically innovate using 4 or 5 different types of innovation, they will be more successful, more difficult for people to copy them, and they will stay ahead of the game in the longer run. So for today's presentation, I'll be using 2 main references. One is the research, the book by Larry Keeley, 10 Types of Innovation. You can read it. It's a very good book, and a lot of information has been shared, case studies. And the second tool that I'll be combining is GrowthWheel, a tool that is now being used in more than 40 countries, mostly by business advisors. So I'm one of the certified business advisors for GrowthWheel, because at the end of the day, first we need to ask the right question. For example, now that we need to continue, we need to be better than before, we need to weather through this pandemic. So what do I need to do? So first we have to assess our situation, ask the right question, and eventually, as business leader, whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are an individual studying at INSEAD, or whether you are leading an organization, you have to make decision. And decision will have to be accompanied by actions. So these are the things that hopefully at the end of the session, you'll be able to empower yourself to make better decisions. So now a bit of introduction about GrowthWheel so that you have an idea, a framework that we can agree upon so that we speak the same language. Because if I'm talking to a group of an entrepreneur, so it's a bit more straightforward. But since I'm talking to a group of diverse background, so let's have a 360 view of your business or even any organization, because I understand that some of you might not be business owners, but these things I can assure you that it is relevant, because later on, even if you work for someone, these are the same things that business challenges that organization face. So now GrowthWheel, there are 4 components, colors, and these are the 4 business challenges that any organization will face, including INSEF. And this particular tool is relevant for any industry, heavy industry, retail industry, education, you just name it. It fits any type of business, even regardless of their size. Whether you are a startup company, whether you are a big, large conglomerate, you can use it. And it fits all life stages. Whether you just started your company, or you are a maturing company, or you are in declining, or you are in growth stage, and so on, you can make use of it. And these 4 colors represent 4 challenges in business, which are the same. And this is nothing new. I can assure you, nothing new. It's just that it helps us to focus. And these are the 4 cornerstone building and growing a business. So first and foremost, later on, if you are leading an organization or you want to start a business, any business starts off by creating an attractive business concept. For example, now that with this pandemic, you realize that since we can only travel for 10 kilometers, so I might as well come up with an attractive business that can cater to people within my 10-kilometer radius. So maybe I want to provide fresh market deliveries to my community. So what's so attractive about it is that you can just order online and I can send it to you, and I can even clean up your fish or even vegetables for your convenience, for example. So that attractive business concept needs to be backed by a strong organization. You have good idea, you must also have a good team so that they can make sure your idea becomes a reality, not just an idea. So this includes your co-founders, your employees, your business process, and etc. And you also need to ensure that you build a lasting customer relation. Because when you do a business, you sell something to someone, obviously you don't want them to buy only one time, right? You want them to come back, buy again and again. Or maybe subscribe your services for a longer run. In the case of, for example, INSEF. So now they have, let's say, a PhD student sign up, paying the fees. They want, obviously, they want to ensure that this student is successful, able to complete the PhD on time, and happy with the services that we are providing. So how do they maintain it? Or how do they market the services? So eventually you need to look into the networking, your marketing, your sales, your PR, your branding. So these are elements that are related to customer relation. And of course, having all these elements is not sufficient. You also need to ensure, maintain a profitable operation. Whatever operation that you are running, it must be profitable. Take, for example, during the present pandemic period, a lot of businesses that have premise, have a physical shop, they are unable to open, but they still need to pay the rent. So are they able to maintain their operation to be profitable? Because I've realized that even now, there are some who have decided to let go of their office to reduce their costs so that they can survive during this challenging time. And these are the 4 areas that from time to time, any businesses, these are the areas that business challenges that a business leader or an entrepreneur face in building and growing a business. So now, all these 4 challenges can be broken down into 20 focus areas. So as you can see on my screen, under business concept, you must have a business idea. You must have a product portfolio. You can't just have one product. So eventually you need to grow to have several products. And then you need to figure out your revenue model. So you are providing a service or a product. So where does the money comes from? And then customer portfolio, who are you targeting? Are you targeting the layman, the individual, or are you targeting organization? So is your customer profile good enough? And market position, where are you in the market vis-a-vis other players? Take for example, in the case of INSEAD, INSEAD is not the only educational institution providing courses in Islamic finance. They also have to face competition, not just from the local universities in Malaysia, but they also face competition from universities in United Kingdom, in Australia, or even in the Middle East. So how can they position themselves to become attractive to potential clients? And when you talk about organization, what about your ownership, your board, your leadership, your employees, or even social enterprise? We talk about volunteers. What kind of partnership that you need to build? What kind of business processes that you need to be in place? For example, how do you attract students to register interest until they register as a student? The business process for recruiting, business process for buying and selling, all this have to be figured out along the way. And legal issues related to intellectual property, trademark. Have you guarded yourself from potential legal issues? And then customer relation. Is your networking strong enough or not? For example, for students, eventually you want to get a good career. Is your networking strong enough to enable you to land a good position in the area of your interest? Especially now, a lot of companies have frozen their recruitment. So how do you stand out? So it's important for you to have good networking. And then marketing. How do you get people to know the existence of you as a brand, as a product, or even your offerings, your products and services? Once you have marketed them, they become interested. They have desire to know more. They wanted to buy. So what about your sales and services? And also your communication and PR. Now that pandemic has happened, it's even more important for us to be visible digitally. So how's your digital footprint? Take for example, if I were to Google your name today, what would appear in the Google search? Because now people find information through Google. And the truth is based on what you see in the first page of the Google search engine. So have you ensured that you have a good visibility online? And branding. Jeff Bezos said, branding is about what people say about you when you are not in the room. So how's your branding? Are you being seen as trustworthy? Someone who is knowledgeable? So how you want to position yourself and how you want to make sure that your personal value proposition or your organization value proposition is being communicated clearly to your stakeholders. And then of course, operation. First, you need to know about your financials. How's your cash flow? How's your financial position? And then for funding, you need to know when do you need funding? For what purposes? How are you going to use the proceeds from the funding? Where are you going to get the funding? Is it through equity? Is it from the debt market? If from equity, are you going to for crowdfunding? Equity crowdfunding, or are you going to do private equity, or you are going to raise funds from the stock market? And this is where probably you can add on elements of Islamic finance. Maybe you want your funding to be musyarakah based or mudarabah based and so on. So this is where you can add a bit of flair related to Islamic finance over there. And in terms of your production and deliveries. So what's your production capacity? So now that, let's say, orders have surged, you have increased in requests. So are you able to produce? And more importantly, are you able to deliver? Because some people have good production, but because of COVID-19, a lot of logistical companies have challenges. And that's why you see a lot of delay in terms of deliveries. So you need to have good distribution channel. And IT system. Have you considered using good educate level of IT system? Now it's even more important. I was listening to our local radio station, BFM, the business station, one of the academicians was sharing that even our local universities are inadequate in terms of infrastructure to cater for online learning. And I like a video that I saw in India. One of the innovations they have created is to use local TV channels to air their educational content. So you learn from the TV. I think this is what we used to have in the 90s or 80s. We have TV pendidikan, educational TV, a government-owned TV, so you can still continue to learn, even for those who are in rural areas. And facilities. Do you have adequate facilities if you were to run your business? But of course, there are a lot of things, 20 areas. But at the end of the day, you need to have focus. Not everything needs to be done at the same time. This is where you need to evaluate. Ask the right question. For example, for now, what do I need? And later I will be sharing with you some examples how to combine this particular tool with the types of innovation that you like to introduce. For example, later on, we will do a very brief assessment of the current standing of your organization, and after that, how to come up with an action plan. So stay tuned until the end so that you know how to use this tool. And some of the worksheets, I'll be passing it to INSEF, to Tuan Hisham. So for those who are interested to get the slides, as well as the worksheets, so stay tuned. So I'll inform you how to get the content that I'm sharing today. So now you need to have focus. You can't possibly try to attempt everything. That's just not sane. So from all these 20 focus areas, so you can use this as a checklist to identify. For example, I think in terms of business idea, I'm quite okay. But I think in terms of networking, in terms of marketing, I think I need to do a bit more. So this is where area I think I'm weak in, that I need to focus more on to get more clients, for example. In Wuhan, I think Wuhan, where is the initial epicenter of this pandemic, I read in Harvard Business Review, there was a cosmetic company, because all the shop has to be closed, so they have to innovate themselves. So what they did was, they changed all their sales girls, physical shop sales girls, into digital marketers. And for your information, their sales during the pandemic period for the first quarter were far better compared to the same period last year. In fact, their sales went up 200% by just innovating, changing from offline to online selling. So you can see that once you figure out where you need to focus on, so it'll be easier. So now let's continue. So the most important thing is we ask the question where we need to focus right now. And after we have ask the right question, we need to make decision. And those decisions need to break into actions. And this is typically what people like myself, business coaches, we do with business owners. We help them to have the right frame of mind so that they know what they need to prioritize. And of course, there's so many decisions and actions that you might need to make, but the key thing here is to prioritize. Which of these decision and action will give you the multiplier effect, which gives you the most impact in whatever you want to do. And the good thing about GrowthWheel is that it's a visual checklist. So it has colors, so you know where exactly you are trying to focus. For example, are you focusing on the yellow quadrant, which is the business concept, or are you focusing on the green quadrant, which is the customer relation side? All right. So now that's a bit of introduction. Later on, I'll show you how to combine with 10 types of innovation. Now let's go into 10 types of innovation. So if you have questions, please do type on the chat box, and then I'll try to address as I go along. Excuse me. Now, 10 types of innovation, as I mentioned, a combination of several types of innovation will enable you to have a more stronger market position and be relevant to your stakeholders. By just focusing on product innovation, people can copy you. That's why the ROI is the lowest. So that's the most key takeaway that I need to remember. And that's why sometimes if I were to reflect upon the topics during Islamic Finance Forum or even discussion has always been centered in terms of the intricacy of the Islamic product and services. But I hope that in the future, with the people that I'm sharing today, in future, the discussion of Islamic finance will be more holistic. And the two that I'm talking about, 10 types of innovation, these are part and parcel of what we call today tools related to design thinking. So you imagine your current status and you imagine a better future. So how you want to get the better future, we have to start off by understanding what is the present problem faced by the people, by the industry, and how we can solve that. And to solve that, we need to have a bit of framework. To imagine, we need a bit of framework. The framework to help us to guide what to think about, partly is 10 types of innovation. So that we don't get stuck. Whenever we go to Islamic Finance Forum, it's always talk about the products. It would be nice if we can combine not just the product, but also the other aspect of the ecosystem so that we can come up with better solution for the stakeholders. Now, this is the book. You can check it out. In Malaysia, you can buy it online, or you can buy it from any of the major bookstore around the world. This is a snapshot of the 10 types of innovation. It is being categorized into 3 different categories. Configuration, the blue one. Offering, this is the middle one, the offering, that is product innovation. That is easy because I think most people that I've met, even entrepreneurs, whenever you talk about innovation, they always talk about, oh, I want to add this to my product, add that to my product. But you have also to consider other things. You can also innovate in terms of experience. And I'll be sharing with you some examples of these 10 types of innovation. Now let's start. So now the first type of innovation is profit model. So profit model refers to the way you make money. How do you generate income? And this is an important part for every organization. So one of the examples, case studies given is Gillette. You have the blade and the razor. So Gillette realized that to educate people to utilize such tool, they have to innovate a bit in terms of how they make money. So that's why if you buy the blade, the razor, the handle, and also the razor, the blade for the first time, the cost is actually subsidized by Gillette because the cost of that stick, that handle, is actually quite expensive. But they understand that once people have that handle, that stick, they will keep on buying new blades from time to time. So eventually you get people, you lost a bit in the beginning, but you make more money in the long run because people will keep on buying new blades to attach to their handler. That's what we call as a way of making money. And in business strategy, this is called loss leader or sharp and razor. Another example is Next Restaurant. Next Restaurant, I think, is a Michelin star restaurant in America. So what is the problem with restaurant before pandemic? The problem is in America, people like to dine out on the weekend. So yes, your restaurant is full on Saturday and Sunday, but your business is running from Monday to Sunday. So what about Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? You're opening shop, but there's no customer. But on Saturday and Sunday, you have so many people to the point that you don't have sufficient tables to serve your client. So what they did was they introduced an auction dynamic based pricing, whereby if you want to eat during weekends, Saturday and Sunday, the price would be more expensive because the demand is higher. So, but if you want to enjoy a Michelin star meal at a more reasonable price, you can actually buy a table on the weekdays where the price is cheaper. So indirectly, on the weekend, they are able to maximize their returns, and during the weekend, during the weekdays, they are able to attract people who would like to try their food but may not be able to go for the price during the weekend. And just to give you another example, Nespresso. So they come up with a coffee machine for coffee lovers, and then they are selling the pods. So in the early days, they did the same thing. They sell the machine, and eventually people realize that, hey, but in order for me to enjoy good coffee, I still have to buy the pods. So eventually they introduce a subscription-based model, and you can see even in Malaysia, you can see some other companies are using it as well. For example, last 1 or 2 years, you see brands like Aristo, they sell the machine, or you can rent it for RM1 per day. And these are different ways of you making money. Similarly, for example, maybe in INSEAD, they decide want to innovate the way they make money. Maybe before this, they make money from the fees that students are paying. Maybe in future, they want to come up with different ways. For example, they have their facilities. So they can actually sell the facilities, or they want to change their business model into a subscription model, whereby you pay certain fees for you to enjoy certain facilities to external parties. For example, people who want to use the library. So you can subscribe and utilize the digital library at a more cheaper rate. So there are a lot of things that you can actually try out. So that's the first way, how you make money. Second is to network, to innovate through your network. This involves you making connection with other parties to create value. Now, example, in America, they have this Target superstore, whereby they try to combine the best of fashion retail store and also discount retail store. So in the end, you have the best of two worlds. One, you have a lot of discount. The other one, you have a lot of fashionable clothes sold at a cheaper price. So they work together with different parties to give this offering. Another example is UPS, a logistical company, and Toshiba, a company from Japan, producing electronic devices. So what they did was, Toshiba can produce the computers, but for them to produce computers, selling it, and providing services to companies, so that's an additional business process. You need a different type of workers. So what they did was, they worked together with UPS. So UPS will handle the distribution of the computers, and UPS can be on site to actually troubleshoot, to maintain the computers. So this involves two different parties. Give you a more local example that I've seen in recent years. Because of the need to have face masks and the shortage of supply in the early days, a few groups of social enterprise has come together, work together, so that they can produce face masks in the larger quantity. Because among the problem faced by local entrepreneurs is that they do not have the scale, they do not have the capability to produce in mass. But when they work together, go under one brand, and they themselves have a group of tailors under them, so they're able to produce more and indirectly help them to pitch to larger corporates. Because when you go to big companies, one of the issues, one of the things that they would like to see is, if I were to give you this particular contract, business contract, would you be able to deliver them? Do you have the business process? Do you have the manpower? So these are some of the basic questions that they ask. And another local example, my friend was staying in one of the area in Batu Cave. So he's telling me that a lot of motor riders, they have grouped together to build a network and offer their services of picking and sending goods to the local community. And that enabled them to land bigger business partnership with different apartments, because they have a group of people to fulfill the needs of the local community. So you can see when you do that, so it indirectly gives you opportunity to land bigger things. And of course, to do this, you need to have a mindset of collaborating, not competing. I think it's a similar message that you can see in the Quran, whereby you can't find the word of compete. What the Quran encourages is to work together, race to do goodness. So those are the choice of words that you can see in the Quran, not compete. So don't have a competing mindset. In fact, in the recent business journals, you can see from Harvard, MIT, all of them are talking about one of the essential strategy moving forward is collaborating. Even you can see in the bubble tea that you drink, for example, Tea Life or even Sha Time, they are collaborating with different brands, Cadbury, Hershey, and whatnot, to come up with a unique drink. So that's also collaborating. Next is structure. You can also innovate by aligning your talents and also your assets. So one example that's given is Southwest. It's among the early airlines that provided cheap airfare. So one of the things that they have realized is that when you are operating an airline, you want to be able to ensure your airplane land quickly, pick up passengers, offload passengers, pick up passengers, and quickly fly again. Because the longer you are in the airport, the more taxes, the more resources, and more fees that you have to pay to the airport owner. And to overcome the crowded spaces, crowded airports, they realize that they are underutilized airports that they can make use of. So they change their strategy, realign their business processes, the people, and the way they do things. So eventually, they're able to land faster, offload passenger faster, and get back up in the air faster. So they enable them to reduce a lot of things. Same goes to when organizations start to go digital, they can actually have a lot of cost saving. Yesterday, our local electricity provider, TMB, I think in the news was reported that they are expecting to make fewer money this year because a lot of, I assume a lot of where businesses have started work from home policy, and a lot of manufacturing plants have stopped their production for the early period of the restricted movement order because of the pandemic. So that indirectly impacted their revenue for TMB, Tenaga Nasional Berhad, our electricity provider. But on the flip side, big corporation or even INSEAF, I think have saved tremendous amount of money because they don't have to switch on the aircon for a long period of time. You don't have to use a lot more electricity because people are working from home. So you can see that then you realign your talent to work remotely and so on. So that indirectly provide you a cost saving. So there's a lot of things that you can actually innovate when it comes to talent and structure. So the other thing is in terms of process, whereby you use a more superior or signature way of doing things. Take, for example, the most visible company for most of us are Toyota and also IKEA. So let's start off with IKEA. So if you realize from the picture, they realize that number one is a human psychology. In order to make people feel that they have achieved something, that's why they created furnitures that you can assemble on your own. Because from studies, they've shown that people feel satisfaction. They get dopamine, they feel good factor when they are able to assemble their own furniture. But the other thing is that how to overcome logistical issue, because typically furniture comes in all shapes and sizes. That is why IKEA in their design, by design, they design their boxes to be flat pack. You can see everything is flat. So it makes it easier for people to carry it in their car or even in any other vehicle. So they can maximize space logistically, or even for their consumer. So that's also another way of innovating. And if you realize, there's another thing that they have innovated, is that IKEA is a global company. Typically, global company, you will have to come up with a lot of different translation of your product and services. For example, Malaysia, maybe you can use, like, you can get away with Malay or English. But you're selling in India, you're selling in Dutch, you're selling in Germany. So how many translations do you need to make? But they innovated, instead of using languages, they use icons, use infographic, so that people can understand how to assemble your product and services. So that's also cost saving in terms of printing. Yeah. So those are the things that you can also incorporate when you want to do innovation. And the other one that's famous is Toyota. Yeah, Toyota, the original founder, Toyoda-san, he went to America, they learned how the Americans are doing, and then they come back, they come up with a better method, and then they introduce the lean manufacturing. So that's also another way. Now we have a lot of lean processes. You have lean production, you have lean startup, you have a lot of things being applied. Okay, so there are also some questions I'll be addressing in a short while. Thank you, Brother Abdul Kamara. So these are innovation related to configuration. So you can reflect back in terms of my present organization, what kind of innovation from these categories that I can actually introduce into my organization. Now let's go to the one that is quite familiar, quite popular among people, that is product-related innovation. One is product performance, meaning to say you create products and services that has distinguishing features and functionality. This is quite straightforward. Yeah, example, you personalize. I think your birthday is coming up. M&M's introduce candies that you can customize your face, whatnot, or even bags. Now you can engrave your own names. So those are customization. Or even Corning Gorilla Glass, they did a challenge whereby they put a $50 note and they are Gorilla Glass. So Gorilla Glass, I think most of the handphones are using Gorilla Glass. So they did a challenge. If you can break that glass, you can take that money, just to indicate how strong their products are to the market. And then product system, sometimes you create an innovation whereby, like it or not, there's a complementary product and services that makes you want to stay with a particular product and services. A good example is Microsoft Office. If you want to use Excel, you can't do away if you don't buy the other as well. So it comes together. You want to ensure a seamless experience of using the product, you are stuck in their ecosystem. Same goes to Apple user. Yeah, once you have used Apple, you have used iPhone, MacBook, and so on, because they are part of the closed ecosystem. So that's also another way of innovating. Product performance and product system. So these are innovation related to products. As I mentioned, this is the lowest form of ROI, but still you can still do it, but do combine it with the other innovation types that I'll be showing in the rest of our presentation. So now next is to innovate in terms of experience. First up is service, the support and enhancement that surround your offering. Not just the product, but there's also additional services. So among the most innovative companies in the world, one of them is ZUSUFF. So they sell shoes online. So among the great things that they do is, for example, let's say today is Miss Ulfa's birthday. So Miss Ulfa probably has bought a sneakers maybe before a couple of months ago, and today is her birthday, let's say lah. So their customer rep would typically call on your birthday, and then after that they will sing, Miss Ulfa, we are from ZUSUFF, and then together with the whole team they will sing, happy birthday to you, and because today is your birthday, we're giving you a special 50% discount on your next purchase. So that's how they try to get buy-in from you emotionally. When other people don't remember your birthday, ZUSUFF is here to remember you. That's one thing about their customer service. And the other thing that they do is, let's say you need something, but you can't find it. You can just call Zappos. Even though they're just selling shoes, you can call Zappos. The customer rep is more than happy to help you find what you need, even though they are not selling it. That's how good is their customer happiness officer. So that's why the tagline is delivering happiness. And the other thing, service, I think common in Malaysia is 7-Eleven. I mean, they're operating 24 hours, except during the recent CMO, restricted movement order or conditional movement order. But when you talk about 24-hour store, we know that, oh, you can go to 7-Eleven. Right. Next one is to innovate on your channel. Channel is about how people get to know your value proposition, your offerings are delivered to your customers. One of the examples is Nike Town. Nike Town is different from the normal Nike store. In the normal Nike store, you can just view the shoe. There will be a sales rep helping you to find your size and so on. But in Nike Town, they make you feel like you are a pro athlete. So for example, you want to buy a running shoe. They can help advise you in terms of what kind of shoe you should buy. And then they even have a treadmill for you to run so that you can experience. So the whole experience of coming to their outlet is just totally different. So you can innovate in terms of channel, how people are interacting with you. And now you can see a lot of companies that typically selling things offline have now innovated and going online. So now how do you make the experience of going into your digital store different from other people? So this is where room for you to innovate. And next is you can innovate on your brand. Yeah, brand, your representation of your offering and businesses. So for example, if you talk about Virgin, people know Richard Branson. So he's a fun guy. So you get the feeling that, oh, Virgin, if I work with Virgin, so the experience is just fun, cool, different, breaking the rules. That is the kind of vibes that Richard Branson's portray. There's also another brand that some of us might remember. There's a perfume brand, Body Shop, was founded by a Jewish lady. She advocates for animal rights and also using natural ingredients. So she built that brand to the point that people know. And if you realize all their advertisement, they never use a female model to actually sell their products. Because at the end of the day, they want to promote their value proposition, which is nature, and we do not do any harm to the planet. And if someone were to go into the perfume market and do something similar to them, people would automatically compare, oh, you're trying to be another Body Shop. That's how strong they have built their brand. So similarly, this is another area that we can innovate. And last but not least is customer engagement. It's in terms of how do you create or foster an interaction that makes customer feel that, wow, buying from this shop, this person, it just makes me feel better. Because studies, if you read the book When by Daniel H. Pink, the most important part of any interaction are the two parts, which is the beginning and the end. So studies have shown if you want to see which book gets read from cover to cover, typically they found that books that have interesting starting point and an interesting ending, that book have a higher chance of being finished reading by the reader. So how can you make use of this study to actually create an engaging customer experience? For example, those days we have the apps like this, whereby if you go to a particular place, you contribute, you tag yourself, you share what's happening, you can upgrade your status, become a super mayor. Or even now, if you go use other GPS-related apps like Waze, if you contribute, you share the status, become beneficial to others, so eventually your ranking also goes up. So those are among the things. Or even you go to Apple, whenever those days when Steve Jobs wants to do presentation, there are people who are willing to buy tickets just to come for a product presentation because of their experience. So among the examples that being given by the book in When, it was saying that, for example, if you go to a particular restaurant, the experience was nice, and imagine by the time you want to pay your bill, let's say I'm the waiter, I come to you, say, Mr. Fahmi, thank you for dining at our restaurant. As part of our policy, we need you to help us to choose from these 3 charitable houses. Because of this pandemic, we have chosen 3 different initiatives. One is building face masks for frontliner. Second is to help single mothers who have lost their job. Third is to help children in shelter home. So part of the proceeds that we receive from the sale today will be contributed to either one of these initiatives. Could you help us to choose one of them? So they try to create this feel-good factor. So you choose one particular charitable house, so you feel good. That's why studies have found philanthropists, after they go for auction, they have sacrificed billions of money buying paintings and whatnot, they go home with a feel-good factor. So similarly, this is something that you can do. For example, if let's say someone comes to your restaurant, before they leave your restaurant, imagine if all the waiters stand up and then they say to you, thank you, and then they give a big clap. So of course you got a shock. Suddenly, I've never gone to a restaurant. Before I leave, people appreciate me. People give me a big clap, appreciating my presence. And I remember that, and I start to talk about it to my friends, and people also want to experience the same experience. So similar thing, for example, in INSEAF, we can also innovate. How do we make sure that the first day coming to campus and the last day they leave the campus is the most happiest moment of their time? So there's something that we can innovate. Yeah. So these are innovation under the category of experience. So now, after this, I'm going to show you how are we going to relate the growth wheel, the focus area, and how to combine with the 10 types of innovation before we end our session today. Now let's look at one particular video from IKEA in terms of how they do their customer engagement. Yeah, especially now that people can't move freely, but how can they help people to buy whatever they need using technology? Let's have a look at this particular video. I think some of you might not be able to listen to the sound, but I hope the sound is clear on my side. I hope you can't hear the sound. Okay. So I hope you are able to see how they are using augmented reality to actually help. For example, rather than you having headache in terms of how you're going to find a furniture that fits you, or even now it's more difficult for you to move around because of the pandemic. They have created a technology that can actually help you. You just scan your location, and then you can imagine what kind of furniture that you want to put in before you actually make the purchase. Yeah, I think similarly, the same thing has been done by some companies selling paint, yeah, like Dulux and so on. They also have created apps. For example, you can just scan onto your wall, so they can immediately give you an indication how it would look like should you choose a particular color. So these are all innovation that you can introduce to create the customer engagement. People feel differently. Okay, so these are the 10 types of innovation. Just recap: you can either innovate in terms of how you make money, thinking of new ways of making money apart from the traditional way of buying and selling. One of the famous one at the moment is subscription. You can see People now go for Netflix. People go for a lot of subscription-based services because the startup cost is not high. Secondly is network, the importance of who you know, collaborating with people which has different strength. You bring some strength, another person bring a different added value, so you can combine and offer something new. And then you have structure in terms of different way of doing things by aligning your talent and assets. For example, now under new management, they talk about organization going from very pyramid-based, hierarchical-based into flat. And there's also a term called holacracy, whereby you empower people to take lead as and when is required, especially now that you are working from home. So there's more needs for you to have a structure so that you can align your talent and asset to achieve a particular new direction that you have set. And then you have process. You can also innovate in terms of process. Like it or not, now people have to adjust to the new norm. Even people sending deliveries, they also have keep their distance of 1 meter. Those doing offline have to sell things online. So definitely new processes are needed. And then product performance, these are quite straightforward. Product, you add on new features, functionality, and of course, good products not only have functional features, they also have emotional value proposition or even social value proposition. And also product system, sometimes you can add on complementary stuff to make people feel that, oh, it's wholesome. For example, you might be subscribing to Kowe or Kuku. So they not only sell the products, but they also have complementary services. And then lastly, you have the chat experience. You can innovate in terms of the service, in terms of added service, in terms of channel, how you deliver your products and services. You can innovate your brand, or you can even innovate in terms of your customer engagement. Now I'm going to jump back into GrowthWheel for a very short while, just to show you how you can make use of the tool once you are back. Hold on a second, just let me open. All right, let me open decision sheets. All right. Hold on a second, let me share the screen. So this will be the final part before we close up. Okay, now, I hope you guys can see my screen. So now, if you want the decision sheet later on, I will be passing it to INSEAF and you can have a copy. It's strictly meant for your own personal use. So first thing first is actually you can actually assess your business status. For example, in terms of business idea, where do you think you are? Are you at the level 1, 25%, 50%, 75%, or 100%? So you can mark all these columns. And then after that, after you have assessed all this area, let me see if I have another one. Sorry, just let me open another. Right, 360. All right. All right, so just get back here. So once you have marked, that means here you evaluate your current status. If you feel that your business is at 25% when it comes to business idea, then you mark 25%. If you feel that it's quite good, 50%, you just mark 50%. And then here you can also mark it to be 75%. So it all depends on how you feel about your present business. Yeah, me use. Okay, I want to draw. Right. So here is 25%. You mark 2 of it if it's 50%. If you feel that it's better, then maybe 75%. If you think that it's perfect, then you just mark it 100%. Okay. So the point is for you to assess your current organization. So for example, INSEF can do similar things. For example, in terms of an educational institution providing quality educational opportunity that is relevant to the industry. So how do you find the business idea? Maybe compared to other university, maybe we are in a better position because of we are backed by Bank Negara, and our alumni are strong, and most of our talents have proven themselves in the industry. So maybe in terms of business idea is strong. So maybe in terms of networking, maybe this is something that maybe we feel that it's 50%, something, an area that we can improve upon. So the point is you assess the whole 20 focus area, and in the end you determine which part of the focus area that you need to work on. For example, maybe you feel that in the end, I think maybe we need to improve on our financial, but our financial is not strong, probably because we don't have larger customer portfolio. So you need to determine what you need to do first. So once you have done that, once you have done that, so what you need to do is you need to transfer all this information into your 30 and 60, 90 days. That means this is where you come up with your action plan. So you can actually transfer all those information based on this quadrant. You see here, the yellow one, it's referring to the business concept. Green one is on customer relation. Blue is on operation, and the red one is on organization. So let's say one of the areas that we wanted to improve upon is, for example, our decision is to have stronger digital presence. So that is our decision. So this is our decision. So all these decisions need to be broken down into smaller actions. For example, first we have to maybe brainstorm our value proposition and marketing campaign. So these are the actions that we need to undertake. So, and after that, you need to determine when do you want to do it. So is it now? Or you want to do it within 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. So this is the timeline that you have. And then you have to assign who is going to do it. Maybe head of marketing. So this is if it's related to marketing. And of course, after you brainstorm, you come up with a plan, and then maybe after that is execute the plan. So these are amongst the things that you can actually utilize. And I will be providing this decision sheet, this worksheet to INSEF. You can go back and you can do it on your own, even for your personal career. You can even use this, for example, if you look at here, you can assess your skill. You can use it from a perspective of assessing your own value proposition. And coming back to the 10 types of innovation, once you have determined, for example, I want to introduce a new innovation in my business today. For example, in terms of production, maybe I want to use, my decision is to outsource our warehouse to third party, because we can just take the order and then they can do the fulfillment. So that is the decision. Third party to do fulfillment. But of course, we need to break this down into smaller. First, maybe we need to review our SOP and then produce new SOP because of the changes. So when we have to do it and who is going to do it. So it's a similar concept. So whenever you come up with any new innovation, automatically you have to decide what will be your decision, action, when are you going to do it, who is going to do it. And I hope this gives you an idea in terms of how you want to approach different innovation, so that it will not just become an idea, but it will become something that is executable. So now I just answer some question that has been posted here. So Abdul Kamara talking about, since we're talking about innovation, an example you gave is Tenaga Nasional Berhad. Are there any other ways they can innovate and make sure their revenue is still coming in? Of course, definitely. One of the thing that TMB is doing, if you realize, is that I think in the several years of my observation, they have come up with new startups, new companies. They have broken down the HQ into smaller business unit. So among the things that they are offering right now, one is Rimaco, that's a consultancy company, whereby they're giving consultancy to other countries that want to build their own electricity infrastructure. Among the countries that TMB is helping, among others is Pakistan. That's one. Second one is, if you realize in one of the states in Malaysia, they have piloted, because they have all their fiber optic cables, TMB is in the midst of also offering internet connectivity. So imagine now that maybe we have only one main service provider apart from the other telco, but imagine after this, by using the same plug point for your electricity, you can actually get internet connectivity. So that's another new revenue stream. And eventually for consumer, we might get a cheaper rate, which is fantastic. So I hope that answered your question. So Abdul Kamara was asking, I understand that INSEF are going to save money because they won't be using appliances, but how about TMB? I think we have already answered that particular question. How do we measure business idea compared to others? Example, INSEF, how do you measure? Other universities have more customers and their alumni or employability of students would differ based on numbers. Okay, there are many ways for you to evaluate, but ultimately is who is your main customers that you are targeting. So you can combine with other tools. For example, under Blue Ocean Strategy, there's a particular tool called As If. Let me see if I have the presentation slide. Okay, so you can actually evaluate the value proposition offered by different market players. All right, let me just show you a very quick one. We don't have much time, but let me just show you how you can measure. So now this is from a gaming industry. So typically, any industry given, people will compare, number one is price. But you can look into students and then you can eventually evaluate what would be the factors determining the choice of universities. Number one, you of course have the price. Maybe people will look at the academicians. Maybe people look at in terms of employability. People may look at the infrastructure of the universities. So you have to do a sort of focus group or customer survey based on this category of, and ask them what would be the variable that they are using to evaluate the choice of universities. And then you can evaluate based on INSEF, and maybe you can take other public universities, international universities. So from there on, you will be able to see that where we are compared to other market players. It's like a market survey. And then based on your finding, which factors is the most important differentiating factor that would impact a student's choice of a particular university. So this is actually, you can get the raw data. That's why it's very important for you to use whatever research knowledge that you have learned, and you can apply a bit of design thinking. For example, you have realized that there are areas that, for example, INSEF can immediately evaluate. What are the things that I should eliminate? I should stop doing. What are the things that I think should be reduced, because these are not things that are important to students? And then INSEF can ask the question, what would be the things that I need to raise? Maybe in terms of the quality of certain experience, quality of certain things, and what are the new things that I can create to attract more students? So those are the factors. Because in the case of INSEF, their customers are not only individual students like you, but their customers are also private corporate institutions that are involved in Islamic finance, because some of the students are coming here because they are paid by the companies. So, and they also have corporate programs, private workshops for corporate entities. So different company or different clients would require different value propositions. So this is where we need to carefully tailor so that we have a good balance of offering to different type of clients. Even though students, for example, students taking MIFP and students taking MSc or even PhD are different. For example, typically people take PhD because they are academician. From their perspective is, how can I get a good quality education, and maybe I can graduate on time, and I can quickly go back and resume my duty as an academician. So maybe one of the value proposition is that one of the training that any PhD student will go through in INSEF is eventually you will get to publish a book. So by the time you graduate, everyone just managed to publish a thesis or even get your papers to be submitted to high index corpus and whatnot. But in the case of INSEF, it seems like all the students eventually not only graduate PhD, but they also publish a book. They have a book in their hand. So this amount of things. Some university where they do, I remember my friend who studied in Cornell, they were saying that if you want to graduate from this university, you must be able to become a proficient swimmer. So that is also another value proposition. That means people know if you graduate from the university, you are a swimmer or you are a lifeguard and so on. So you can think of new things that you can add into. Or for example, because IR 4.0 is so important, one of the benefits of studying at INSEF is eventually there are modules whereby the students would be able to start a business venture, a small business venture, compared to going to other university. And they get to eventually combine the best of business and also applying their theories that they have learned. That means they have a project where they have real hands-on experience doing businesses. So these are all things that you can actually combine. I remember one particular university, I spoke to the director of Wakaf. So one of the things, added value that he has introduced is that all the beneficiaries, all the asnaf that is receiving help from that particular center, they are being given additional certification sponsored by the center, so that in a way to ensure that these graduates are graduating with more skills and more certification, thus increasing their employability compared to other graduates. So these are things that you can actually be creative about and add on based on the market need, based on what people want. So this is just some examples. Mr. Seliu Senghore, I hope I pronounce your name correctly. I think I'm not sure whether the session is, I think it's being recorded. I think you can get it from INSEF. All right. From Butterfly. Oh, I'm not sure what's your real name. I hope. Thank you for sharing. Student UMCO. Okay. I help my mom make homemade cookies and sell it online using several social media. Question: what type of innovation from the 10 you mentioned can help my mother business growth during MCO? I think a few things that I need to understand, among others, is your locality, who are you serving, and so on, and also whether the kind of food that you are selling, is it a necessity type of food, or is it more of for events type of food? So one of the things, maybe I can share my screen. Hold on here. let me see. I'm not trying to promote this particular business. I have no share, just to mention to you before I show you this. One of the innovations that she did was customization. Yeah? This lady, she is based in one of the state, not in KL. She's not even in Klang Valley, yeah? For your information. Right, let me share screen. Okay, my Facebook. All right, now. She's doing customized cookies. So the reason probably one of the advantages is that you get pre-orders. So whatever you have cooked will not be gone to waste. So if you look at the video, one of the things that she did was cookie paintings, which is safe. You can paint with your kids and then you can eat the cookies. So she's innovating not just the product, but she's also innovating how to use the product. It's a product that you can actually play with and you can also enjoy it. So you can play with you can have a mother-daughter session and so on. So this is one of the things that she's doing. And if you look at her design, she customizes it based on events that you are doing. Let me see. Photos. All right. So as you can see, these are all drawn by her. She can make based on occasion. So the innovation that she's doing, number one, is customization. This is a product innovation. Number two is in terms of the product has elements of engagement. You can play with the product and you can enjoy. So, and then she's doing it 100% online. So that's all. That's an example. Another example is my friend who's selling, I said the lady who went from cosmetic into selling prawns and fish. So for example, she can innovate in terms of the distribution, in terms of how she can actually help you to procure fresh prawn direct from the source. That's number one. Number two, she can deliver it to your home. Number three, she can even, the fish, she can clean it up for you so you don't have the hassle of trying to clean up on your own. So that's also another added value, simple things that you can do to innovate. Yeah. So if you want to talk more, I think maybe later I can you can just contact me personally later after the program. And then Abdul Kamara, I've seen the 20 strategy you have just mentioned. I think it's very important, especially for established business. However, for beginner, you definitely need all this establishment. Let's say for the marketing, you need IT to help you market your business. The issue, if you're a beginner and haven't, would you be able to achieve this in other positions yourself in whatever business you're doing? Startup are always okay. So I think, as I mentioned, the tool is actually meant for everyone. But you have to determine, even if you are a startup, you have to determine what will be your priority. So for example, your priority definitely is not producing an accounting book. Any businesses, you need money first. So first is identify what is the market need and whether I can fulfill that need. So for example, now people have restricted movement, but people still need to eat. People need convenience. People are scared to go out. So if you can solve that and you can market yourself well, for example, there's so many free tools that you can use outside that. For example, you want to do a poster. Even you are not a professional, you can actually Google up. You can find there are a lot of templates for free that you can use. You can use PowerPoint. You go to canva.com. So there's no reason that if you don't know, you can't do it. And of course, your priority now is to make money first. Once you have a lot of money, the new problem that you face is, now I don't know. I have so much money, but I don't think I'm making money. So that's why it's important for you to have a bookkeeping. You need to calculate what is your financial status. So you know, are you making money or you're not making money? I give you an example. Nowadays, in Malaysia, we have a few online e-commerce. I have a guy who's sitting in Taiping at the moment, one of my former client, participant. He's selling stuff that costs 60 cents from Mr. DIY at 12 ringgit. What does he need? He just need to open an e-commerce. And even to build an e-commerce, he does not have to build his own website. He can just go to Lazada, he can go to Shopee. It's free. And he can immediately do the selling. The technology is there. What he needs to figure out is, if people order for me, can I fulfill that or not? And then who are the external party that I need to help in terms of delivering the orders. Maybe I need to work together with a logistical company. In Malaysia, we have Post Laju, Kangaroo, whatnot. So basically, people buy from you, and then you go and buy, and then you sell it back. If you want to be more creative, innovative, you can sign you can sign an istisna contract or any other contract that you feel is relevant for you to actually do the transaction. So there's no issue even for a newbie who wants to start selling, as long as you are not afraid to try it out and make sure that you deliver whatever you have promised. I think it's pretty straightforward. All right, so any other question before? I think it's already been quite some time. It's close to 2 hours. Sorry for taking your time. Yeah. So if you don't have any further question, I'm just gonna share with you my contact details. I just type it out. Let me see. All right. For those who like to get in touch with me, I have posted my email address and my contact details if you want to have a chat. There's also my personal contact number. So if it's urgent, then I would definitely prefer you to just directly call me. I'll try my best to answer. And please do keep in touch, and I hope you find it very beneficial. If you find it beneficial, can you probably give a reaction, maybe a thumbs up? Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for the reaction. Okay. And for those who are celebrating Aidilfitri, I wish you Selamat Hari Raya, Eid Mubarak, if you're still celebrating it. And I hope for those pursuing career, you have a successful career. And for those who are completing their studies, I hope you will graduate on time and land yourself a successful career or even start your own business. All right.